Look at it. Okay, just starting off in the basement, and there's a jammed door here, so just sticking the camera through and see if you can see anything, but I don't think you can much. This would be the boiler room, which would be of interest to some of you. And there's that lone chair. This is the most eeriest basement. Look at it. Because it's pitch black. There's an old bedpan, and those I think are like knee supports for examination. That or stirrups, but I think they're more knee supports. And the rest is just all maintenance equipment and tools. And I guess whatever they salvaged, such as these sinks here. I don't know what they plan on doing with them, but there's about 6 of them in this area anyway. And this is the old classroom. And I found this quite interesting, this kind of door window thing. A cabinet. And I want to show you these creepy stairs and the pipes. I mean, the whole picture. Look at this. They're definitely not safe. And here in Toilet Central, where soap dispensers are dispensed all over the floor. And this hallway leads down to a bathroom of its own. This insane asylum was built in 1870, but this particular building, the infirmary or exam building, was built in 1904, and it took about 2 years to build. Another maintenance room here, where they kind of store things in those little slots. Looks pretty grungy as any basement, as you can see. Let's see what's in here. Nothing of interest. Lots of stuff to walk around. I don't know what that orange tarp is for, but it leads into an electrical room. and I think that is a transformer, just looking at the schematic. And here's a set of stairs going to the first level. You can see them throughout the entire building. And I really have no clue what all this is here. I don't even know what this room was used for before they closed. Maintenance might be just using it now for storage, I would imagine. And this is a worker's lamp. And it was a rental which has not been returned. The main building of the asylum was set up for the chronically ill long-term patients. And this exam building was more for the acute ill that they felt they could cure. And they stayed from anywhere from 3 days to a few years. And the main building, along with a few of the other buildings of the hospital, were demolished in 1975. This one's protected by heritage, so they can't demolish it. And that is the end of the west wing, underneath the west wing. Here is a circuit breaker fuse panel thing. And it even says on there, front, east, and west wings. There are 3 wings to this hospital. And it's kind of hard to tell because it's very dark down here. It's pitch black because every window and door is boarded. So I think this is under the east wing now. And here we have a very eerie elevator shaft. I think it might have been for freight or maybe even food delivery because I didn't see a kitchen in here. And looking way up there, I always found elevator shafts to be eerie looking as it is, let alone in a mental institute. And I'm thinking that this is one of the segregation rooms for patients. Very small, and I thought those were handcuffs or restraints, but they're just coiled wire hanging there. Coming into this room, I believe, was a hydrotherapy room, and that was another form of therapy for the mentally ill, where they gave them continuous baths for long periods of time. Clawfoot bathtubs, because these sinks are built in here, they're not just stored, and you can tell that that is a sewer pipe there because the urine has rusted it out, coming from the various levels. A stainless steel table there. So that's what makes me think that this was where they actually performed the hydrotherapy. And looks like the dentist office, because they did have some specialists on site here, and a dentist was one of them. I'm just wondering if these lamps looked in their mouths, or maybe they were for surgery, or maybe something totally different. But over here on the table, it says dental x-ray filler and developer. So this was probably the dentist office, very small one. And as most of you probably know, this is an older fire extinguisher where you fill it up with water and then put the lid on and pump it with air to pressurize it. And here's a couple more bathtubs. Hydrotherapy, for those of you that don't know, it's where they use hot or cold water depending on the mental illness. And this could be in the form of hot baths that could last overnight for, say, insomnia, or even a few days of continuous baths. Cold packs or cold sprays to calm some down were also a form of hydrotherapy. But as far as I'm concerned, I think a cold spray would not calm me down very well. And this TV is an Admiral, the Fundy or the Tundi, and I could not find that anywhere on Google. I found similar TVs from Admiral, and they were all built in the 50s, so I'm assuming that one is also from the 50s and was probably from one of the sitting rooms upstairs. We're now still in the basement, but we're under the front wing, and I want you to see how pristine this patient elevator is. Like even the lamp up there is just very pristine. And then you come into this dungeon. I mean, check out this sink here. I mean, every sink seems to have a different design in this building. I have no clue what that stuff is there. This front wing was also known as the nurse's house. And that's where they eventually stayed at one point. But there was so much overcrowding that they were always converting the rooms and the wings from one thing to another. So there were probably a multitude of uses. You can see there's like a counter there. These seem like little exam rooms. Same here. And looking at this McDonald's wrappers here, that foam packaging went out in 1990, I think. So it's nothing new, probably from old maintenance workers. Not people that have come in to eat now, or definitely not the patients. And this here, probably telephone communications and intercom systems, because the gauging of the wire is pretty thin for 120 volts. Just conjecture on my part. Of course, you have another sink over there. And this is coming to the end of the basement under the front wing. In the center of the building now, where the wings jet off from, that's looking down the west wing, and to the right goes down to the basement. It's a very long, dark hall. And that goes up to the second level. And this is that freight elevator looking down on it now. And I never did see the actual elevator itself. And here's one of the rooms. You can see it's the same size as the segregation room in the basement, but the window is larger. Some of the rooms were paid for, but not many. But they had the option in some of them. Being overcrowded, it doesn't surprise me that they're so small. I mean, look at that. I don't even know how a bed would fit in there. And then across the hall is a larger room, but it has like a split door there, almost like a wicket style. So maybe at one time it was used by nurses where nobody could get in and you could just talk to them through the upper portion. And there's two little rooms off of it. I thought this was a bathroom, but there's no sink or mirror, so I don't know what this would have been used for. And looking back at that door, you can see a ledge where they maybe wrote things down or put food on, whatever the room was used for. And then this room here, it had a built-in desk. Okay, looking over here, it looks like the floors were probably pretty rotted to the point where they just removed them and left the floor joists behind. even on the second level here. Looks dangerous. And surprisingly, this bathroom actually looks modern compared to the others, because look at this one. Looks like a shower, but it's pretty rough. And I actually have never seen a place with so many bathrooms before. I mean, this place is loaded with them. And what's up with this sink? It's like lower and deeper, and it's at the entryway of a lot of bathrooms. So, and this is a smaller wing that jets off from the main one. And this room is big, clinical looking, with all the tiles, and was used to do some heavy-duty cleaning, likely on equipment, because that is a gauge for a steamer. Whether surgical or not, maybe, but there is a sterilizer for that. But they probably performed various surgeries in various areas. So maybe they sterilized the ice pick for the lobotomies in there. And then this room, you can tell it's about the same size as a patient's rooms, but in place of a window is a very old air conditioner. And another steamer, so I have no idea what they did in here. Maybe more cleaning? And at the end of the wing is a solarium, and there is one at the end of every wing, and they're gender specific, where only men or only women can sit in each one. Same with the wings. And this looks like another patient sitting area, and that likely was a, one-way mirror where the nurses sat and could look over and monitor the patients without them being seen. Just a guess. You can see they try to brighten the place up with the lime green. The medical superintendent wanted a colorful design to help patients, including soothing hanging photos and colorful pattern bedspreads. One of the earlier superintendents here used moral therapy, which was more about labor activities, as he thought restraining only made the patients worse, which just stands to reason. So he tried to create a less institutionalized setting for the patients. Restraints were monitored, and if any of the staff were caught unnecessarily restraining a patient, they were reprimanded. And you can see here in this bathroom, it has the same setup with that different sink at the entryway, like the last one that I showed you. The superintendent doctor felt that female patients needed restraints more so than the male patients, because he thought that males were easier to control than the females. The reason being that the criminally insane, he said, were mainly men and not housed here. And this is the solarium at the opposite end of the hospital, at the end of the east wing. So it would have been for the opposite sex from the other solarium as a sitting room. And even though restraints were allegedly abolished in 1883, there were reports that they had continued their use long after that here. Okay, just heading up to the second level, I'm just going to show you snippets, as it's going to be pretty much a mirror image of the main or the first level. We're in the center here now, where the wings jet off from. And it looks like they kept the patients well hydrated, which is a good thing, because they actually used alcohol as a sedative before the advent of medication here and everywhere, at least back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. This room here is the same as the one below it, where I thought that this should have been a bathroom. There must have been a stainless steel sink in there. And then there's the built-in desk with looks like some sort of wool or maybe wiring. So that's pretty much the same. And you can see that the rooms are just as small. So that's pretty uniform. Stairway going down to the first level. And back at the solarium, the third one, at the end of the west wing on the second level. You know, it must have been pretty lonely sitting in those small rooms, so it's good that they provided this to get together and socialize, but even then, you would think that it would get pretty lonely here. They did provide what they called airing grounds around the property where the well-behaved patients could wander, so I guess that's a good thing. I skipped the east wing of the second level because it was pretty much the same as everything else you had been seeing. Nothing really interesting or different to show you. So we're in the front wing of the second level looking in the elevator shaft of the people elevator. And this breaker panel actually says the word psycho on it, psycho something AB, but I can't make out the first letter because it's all worn out. Looks like another telecommunications area like the other one, if that's what it was. Lobotomies were performed here between 1944 and 1967, actually everywhere, not just here. I thought this was interesting. And like I said earlier, this front wing was called the nurse's house, but it's also called the surgical building, which is up on the third level, which we'll be going to next, and I'll show you the operating room. I find that ceiling rather interesting too, the design. It looks regal. Lamp is still in good shape. And here's another one of those possible monitoring rooms where there may have been the one-way glass here. They could have been monitoring from either side. If that's even what it was. And here's the other side of that room. And this is the very front of the building. I really like the design of that window. And here's one of the sitting rooms with a fireplace. It looks like they tried to do something with it. And another floor missing here. You can look down to the main level and the basement, so it's quite a ways down. Pretty scary looking. Just heading up to the third level where the operating room is. The superintendent doctor believed in gynecological surgeries. He was the earlier superintendent here on women, as he believed that there was a connection between female reproduction organs and insanity. He performed over 200 surgeries on women, hoping to cure their insanity. That's insane in itself. Within a 3-year span, he believed he cured or saw an improvement in 71 of those female patients. And here are the monster sinks that were used to wash up before performing those surgeries. Here's the operating room here. Everything has been removed, as you can see. The specific types of surgeries were hysterectomies, repositioning of the uterus back to a normal position, because he believed if the uterus was moved that it caused insanity. removing diseased ovaries and tubes, etc. Also believed in natural light in performing surgeries. So there is massive skylights in the attic here that are now boarded up. Unfortunately. But that little area there with the 2 windows was an observation area where students could overlook the surgeries and watch them perform the various types. And here we have a monstrosity of a sterilizer. It's pretty ancient. Insulin shock therapy was also used in the early 1930s, but it was considered very dangerous. Oh, here it is, Scanlon Morris. Insulin was used to induce a seizures or coma during shock therapy, and then in 1939 they used the drug metrazole to induce the seizures. Finally, in 1943, electroconvulsive therapy was used up to 3 times per week for the duration of several weeks. That's crazy. So there's not much to it, so we'll finish up with this. Here is the front door. Well, it's time to check out, and I do hope that you enjoyed your stay here today.